Some of the NFL's greatest and most dominant players just weren't appreciated enough. Whether it was an unfair reputation or simply living in the shadows of their teammates, these 10 former NFL stars were far too often overlooked during their spectacular playing careers. Tony Romo. Romo got a lot of hate for no real reason. If injuries didn't take a toll on him in the final years of his career, he could have been a Hall of Famer. As the quarterback of America's team, Romo was always going to be held to a higher standard than most other players. Sure, he never led the franchise to a Super Bowl, and yes, he came up short in several big game moments. But a closer look at the numbers, and Romo was actually one of the league's most clutch quarterbacks throughout his career. Just consider these numbers from Scott Barrett. Romo also finished with a career completion percentage of 65.3. That ties him with 5-time MVP Peyton Manning, and it's higher than Hall of Famers Joe Montana, Brett Favre, and Steve Young. And even though Romo went just 2-4 in postseason games, don't forget that he had 8 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions. And by the way, Dez caught it. So yeah, Romo and the Cowboys are pretty much robbed of a 2014 NFC Championship game appearance. Finally, remember when Romo played through a punctured lung in Week 2 of the 2011 season against the San Francisco 49ers? And when he played through a herniated disc in Week 16 of the 2013 season against Washington? And when he played much of the 2014 season through a broken rib? Some of you just didn't appreciate Romo like you should have. Not to mention this guy was an undrafted product, yet he still pieced together a very solid career that was unfortunately cut short by injuries. Chandler Jones. Jones is far from done. He remains in his prime as one of the NFL's most dynamic pass rushers, yet we still feel like this guy simply hasn't earned all the recognition that is long deserved. As great as Jones was during his 4 years with the New England Patriots, there was simply no way of him stealing the spotlight from Brady, Edelman, and Gronkowski. That defense had some big names too. Jones' production has actually increased since his trade to the Arizona Cardinals in 2016, led the NFL with 17 sacks in the 2017 season, and in 2019 he had 19 sacks to go along with 8 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries. His production isn't far off from J.J. Watt. He's moving up the all-time sacks leaderboard too. Jones is a surefire Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion, and a member of the 2010s All-Decade team. And yet, we never really hear his name mentioned in the conversations for the best pass rushers of this era. What gives? London Fletcher. If you look up the words durability and longevity in the dictionary, you will see London Fletcher's name. The man played 16 seasons from 1998 to 2013, and he never missed a single game. He was one of football's smartest and most dominant football players for a decade and a half. And yet, we're only talking about 4 Pro Bowl selections, 2 second-team All-Pro nods, and more importantly, no spot in the Hall of Fame. There's little denying that Ray Lewis was the best linebacker of his era, but this graphic here shows you how Fletcher's production really wasn't that far off from Lewis's, and yet only one of them is enshrined in Canton. Fletcher won Super Bowl 34 with the St. Louis Rams in the 99 season, but of course, other players earned most of the praise. Fletcher played 5 years with the Bills from 2002 to 6 before landing in Washington in 2007. He actually played his best years on a hapless Washington team, earning all 4 of his Pro Bowl nods while playing in the nation's capital. Maybe Fletcher was underappreciated because he was stuck on some terrible Buffalo and Washington teams for the majority of his career. After leaving St. Louis, Fletcher only saw 2 more postseason games as an NFL player. But the numbers and consistency don't lie. Unless Fletcher gets a call to Canton, we feel like his marvelous career will never be appreciated enough. Zach Thomas. If there was a Mount Rushmore of Hall of Fame snubs, Thomas would most likely be on it. The former Dolphins superstar linebacker was a game-changing force all across the field during his 12 years with the franchise. 1,734 career tackles, 20.5 sacks, 17 interceptions, 16 forced fumbles, and 48 passes defended. Those are some impressive numbers, and they helped Thomas earn 7 Pro Bowl, first 5-team All-Pro, and 2 second-team All-Pro nods, and he was named to the 2000s All-Decade team. As you can see here, Thomas's production was on par with former Chicago Bears linebacker Brian Urlacher, who was always a guarantee for Canton. And yet Thomas has been ignored on the ballot time and time again. No respect, I tell you. Lorenzo Neal. The fullback position is barely a thing anymore, and it wasn't exactly a position that folks paid attention to during the 90s and 2000s either. As such, it was hard for Lorenzo Neal to stand out among other superstars who were playing much more high-profile positions. But really, this guy was a true game changer, no matter which team he was playing for. Neal wasn't used that much as a rusher or a pass catcher. His specialty was blocking for his running backs, and when it came to that, few did as good as him. Neal played for 5 different NFL teams from 97 to 2007. Why is this significant? Because in those 11 straight years, at least one of Neal's teammates was a 1,000-yard rusher. We have Adrian in 97 for the Jets, Warwick for the Buccaneers in 98. Then in 99 and 2000, there was Eddie George with the Titans, Corey Dillon in 2001 and 2, and then there was LaDainian Tomlinson in San Diego for about 5 seasons. The The stat sheet won't show it, but Neal was as great a run blocker as they came. 11 straight 1,000-yard rushers under his guidance? Wow. The sad part is it was usually his running back who was getting all recognition. Ken Anderson. The Bengals star was one of the most prolific passers the game ever had seen. Playing in the same era as Hall of Famers like Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw didn't help Anderson's cause. He was consistently overlooked despite his strong production. A four-time Pro Bowler, Anderson had one of the best individual seasons ever in '81. He won the MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, and Offensive Player of the Year awards after throwing for 3,754 yards and 29 touchdowns. Anderson led the Bengals to their first ever Super Bowl appearance that year, where they fell to the 49ers. Anderson led the league in passing yards twice, in completion percentages 3 times, and in passer rating 4 times. He put the young Bengals franchise on the map in short time, but you just don't hear his name much these days. And somewhat surprisingly, he hasn't even been inducted into the Football Hall of Fame. His production and individual accolades speak for themselves, and let's not forget his supporting cast wasn't as strong as what Staubach, Bradshaw, and others had to work with. But can we please give this guy a little more love? Jimmy Smith, one of the most consistent wideouts of the late 90s and early 2000s, Smith began his career as a member of the Cowboys. He was on their '92 Super Bowl championship team, but appendicitis unfortunately forced him to miss the team's repeat in 1993. In '95, the new Jaguars franchise signed Smith, who didn't play in '94. 1 year after landing with Jacksonville, Smith emerged as one of the NFL's top wideouts. '96 marked the first of 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for Smith. He helped the Jaguars advance all the way to the AFC Championship game, where they fell to the Patriots. With Mark Brunell passing him the ball, Jimmy Smith helped lead the Jaguars to 4 straight playoff appearances from '96 to '99. He finished his career with 862 catches and 12,287 career receiving yards. Both place him in the top 25 all time. Yeah, that guy was totally underrated. Roger Craig. Guys like Montana, Rice, and Young receive most of the credit for the 49ers dynasty that produced 5 Super Bowl championships from '81 to '94. But workhorse running back Roger Craig also played a giant part in 3 of those championship teams. He was one of the NFL's most explosive playmakers during his 8 years with the 49ers. In '85, he became the first player to record both 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards in the same season. Only Falk and McCaffrey have repeated that feat. Aside from his 3 championship rings, Craig was a 4-time Pro Bowler who won the '88 NFL Offensive Player of the Year award. He is 3rd all-time in 49ers rushing yards and rushing scores. Craig caused giant problems for opposing defenses. He wasn't as big of an impact player as Jerry Rice. No other skill position player ever was. But Craig never really got the credit he deserved for that 49ers dynasty. Jim Marshall. Now most of you know Marshall as the guy who had the wrong way run in the '64 game against the 49ers when he recovered a fumble but ran the wrong way and conceded a safety instead of scoring a defensive touchdown like he thought he had done. Trust us, Marshall should be known for a lot more than that play though. You could easily argue that Marshall is the best player not in the Hall of Fame. At least a shock he hasn't been inducted. Marshall was a cornerstone of the Minnesota Vikings' late 60s, early 70s powerhouse under legendary head coach Bud Grant. He helped the team to a '69 NFL championship and 4 Super Bowl appearances, although they lost them all. A man of great durability, Marshall played 20 seasons. He held several records, including the most fumble recoveries with 29. All of that longevity, individual and team success, and yet it still isn't enough to help Marshall earn the recognition he deserves. Drew Bledsoe. Fair or not, most people simply remember Drew Bledsoe as the guy that Tom Brady replaced. It was only 2 decades ago when Bledsoe was viewed as the face of the New England Patriots franchise. Most of you know the story. In Week 2 of the 2001 season, Bledsoe suffered a sheared blood vessel after taking a hit from Mo Lewis. A little-known second-year backup named Tom Brady had to take over, and the rest is history. Brady led the Patriots to their first Super Bowl in franchise history, marking the end of the Bledsoe era in Foxborough. He was traded to the Buffalo Bills in the offseason. But please let's not discount the man who actually helped the Patriots become relevant again. He was drafted first overall in '93 by a franchise that wasn't going anywhere. In just his second season, Bledsoe led the Patriots to 10 wins and a playoff berth. In '96, he led New England to an unexpected Super Bowl appearance where they fell to the powerhouse Packers. Bledsoe also guided New England to postseason appearances in '97 and '98. Oh, and by the way, Bledsoe had to finish out the 2001 AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road after Brady suffered an ankle injury. Without Bledsoe's heroics, the Patriots might not have won their first Lombardi trophy. Bledsoe finished his career with 44,611 passing yards and 251 touchdowns. It may not have been Tom Brady good, but this man was key in helping the dynasty slowly but surely come into place. Bledsoe, folks, was more than the guy who Tom Brady replaced. Any Patriots fan should know that by now. Who do you think is the most underappreciated star in NFL history? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by hitting that subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then hit the like button. We'd really appreciate it. So until next time, tune into TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you.